kind of gives a good little mix of a few things to look at. So do we have Melinda on standby?
Yep, Melinda is right here. I think she should be on in a second here. Waiting to get her on Facebook as well. So she should be popping up in a second. Good, continue.
That's all.
That's it?
All my intro.
All right.
That's all I got.
And we're getting Melinda. She should be on here. Let's see. Make sure she's on our camera. And our camera's on. And let's see. Hopefully there you are. Hey, Melinda.
Hi. How's it going?
Okay, we can see you there on that broadcast. Are you on Facebook as well?
Let me get on here.
So we can hear from her shortly here.
Can she see us?
Yeah, I think so. Melinda, can you see us?
Yeah, I can see you on my computer.
I can't hear her.
And I don't think, there we go. We can hear you now. All right. Are you able to get on Facebook as well?
Let me see here.
Yeah, you should be able to do it from your phone. We can get you on both.
Is it the hold on.
Hi, Rachel.
Hey, Rachel. I'd love to bring Rachel in on this as well at some point. I know she'd love to join in this conversation.
Do I need to click on this link that you sent me through Messenger?
Yeah. No. You should have received something from me to join a Facebook one.
All right.
I'm live on Facebook now, so Facebook unfortunately doesn't allow us to do it from the actual Change Begins With Me page.
There she is.
There you go. Awesome. Approve. Cool. All right.
Just like.
Okay, rotate my phone.
All righty.
There we go.
This time.
It's adding you.
All right, I got you.
I'm not sure which one I'm supposed to look at.
It's all right. You can glance over to either one.
Okay.
But use one of them.
Pick one.
Just pick one of them and mute it. That way you don't get the reverb.
Should I just look at this one? Wait, I need to mute it. Gotcha.
Mute one of them. No, not yet. You gotta figure out. Pick one of them and mute. Maybe this one.
Oh, I muted it. Okay.
This one mute. Leave the other one open.
Ah.
All right. That's better. Awesome. Yep. Well, a little bit.
I don't have it muted on my phone.
Okay, one of them needs. You need to mute one of them. But I think it's this one right here.
I muted the other ones. I need to mute this one.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, she has one of them. I just want one of hers to be able to not. As long as she gets one of them to do it, it'd be fine. Anyway, she'll figure it out.
Sorry, the worst.
At least we do have you on now.
Yeah, right?
So on that phone, flip it and mute.
How do I mute it?
On the screen, touch the screen.
Got it.
And push the mute icon.
Oh my gosh.
You see it?
Nothing's popping up.
I'm gonna put it on the computer then.
All right, maybe she can do the computer. Can you mute? No, she's gonna hear herself the whole time. Or turn the volume down on the computer. Something. One of them is like just giving is repeating everything. Awesome. I think that worked. All right. Yeah, that totally works. All right.
No, I can't hear. Hold on, let me turn you up. All right.
All right, we're good. We're cooking with gasoline now.
Yes.
I'm telling you, I'm not tech savvy. That's why I'm doing these things so I can get really good at it, right?
It's all right. I'm okay. I'm pretty good at it, so we're good.
You're gonna teach me.
Yeah. Okay. So Melinda is our special guest. She's an integrative holistic health and wellness coach. Melinda, can you tell us a little more about yourself and about what you do?
Well, I studied with the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, and I have about 2 more weeks to go. Yay! And then I graduate.
Cool.
So I'm really just trying to get established in central Pennsylvania at the time, and just work with wellness centers and massage therapists, chiropractors, spiritual guides, anybody I can that's open to working with a holistic health and wellness coach.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
So what's going to be good today is that I have a couple of things that we want to talk about, but the main thing that I think we want to get into is the supernatural. So we hear, oftentimes we get to talk a lot about, biblical scripture. I grew up a Southern Baptist, guy, then, married into 2 Catholic families, went down that whole path, and then kind of just fell off and lost myself to church and then onto religion. And that just completely just had me just done. I don't know what happened. And I found myself in really dark times. So knowing that there's some spirituality, there's some, science, scientific fact to different energy waves and things of that nature gives a lot of credit to even the science and practice of the supernatural, of understanding that dimensional spaces, dimensional, trains of thought. So today, the reason why it's great to have, Melinda on, I'm sure Rachel would love to join us at some point too, is to really start talking about this, because we start talking about, the powers of psychic ability, through spiritual beliefs. You still have many of the Native American indigenous people that still do a lot of this practice today, where they're doing astral projection, where they're leaving their bodies and traveling through dimensional spaces that way and proving it, and you've had people go through where they've kind of gone into almost like the movie Inception, where Leonardo DiCaprio played, where they're going into people's mind blocks and trying to get them out of these walls that they built themselves into in these dimensional spaces in their own mind. So it's amazing when you start taking these things, and this is the thought process that a lot of us have, is to be able to have now a forum where we can talk about this openly, freely, and not have to feel criticized that you feel as if you're crazy, because I think we should all feel a little bit crazy because we keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, waking up each day, doing the same job, complaining about it, and only changing our shirts. That's it, but really nothing different. And now we're going to think about all these dreams, these deja vu moments, and let's start bringing those up, because it's important that you start talking about that, because we have some magical powers. So if you guys are ready, let's jump in the first topic. So I want to talk about, I guess I want to give an opportunity to have Mindy talk about, her, when she was younger, she used to be able to do astral projection. And she never, she didn't know what that, necessarily what that was. But when she described it to me, I was like, oh yeah, I've done that before. you know, as a kid, my brother remembers doing it, and I remember my brother doing it. So I'll let Mindy tell her story. Then obviously I want to hear Melinda talk about hers, and we're going to, you know, the next topic, just keep flowing. So, well,
when I was young, from the time I can remember till I was 8 or 9 years old, I could just leave my body. My soul would leave my body. I didn't actually know my body wasn't going with me because I was so young and I didn't really understand what was happening. But I would very frequently, generally, like in the middle of the night is mostly the times that I would remember. So I would be by myself, but I would just wander off, and I would always come back, and I would be puzzled because I would feel like I was in my body. I would be walking around in, like, you know, my pajamas, and then like come back and like wonder why my pajamas weren't all dirty because I was outside doing things, and like it just kind of was weird to me. But I just kept doing it. And I remember one time very specifically, I was out in the neighbor's yard playing with my brother. We always played in the dirt with little cars and stuff. And I left my body then, and I just like floated up, and I was looking down at everyone, and I didn't realize they couldn't see me doing this. And so at some point a little later on, I asked my brother, I was like, do you remember when I floated up above everybody? And he looked at me like I was totally crazy, full on insane. And it just shut me down so much to think, oh, what just happened? Because I thought it was real. I thought it really physically happened to me, and it didn't. And so I've never done that just randomly before, and, you know, since that point. But, you know, because everybody thought I was crazy.
Well, you were.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You were totally insane, out of your mind, right? So, I mean, it's amazing when you start thinking about that. For instance, and then, you know, it's not to validate that, you know, did it happen or not? It did. You know, for her to say it, it's amazing because it goes back to even a story my brother had. You know, my second oldest brother, and everybody in my family used to think he was crazy, and, you know, they would say stuff like that, and it wasn't. But he actually witnessed so many different things. Like for me as a kid, because I didn't know any better, and, you know, one time he actually he remembers me being around like 7 years old. I had like really bad scarlet fever. You know, I'm from Dundalk, you know, Maryland area, where, you know, my grandmother practiced hoodoo and all kinds of other stuff and spiritual healing, and they were in an old battlefield ground, and you see spirits, and all the old Civil War guys and Revolutionary War guys were thrown in big pits, and just, you know, dead bodies poured over top, and they buried them that way, and they put a church over top of it. So, you know, you have a lot of these people that have a lot of like history talking about there's some unrested type of energy just in that space, in that area. And, you know, you know it, you can feel it. And so I was like just deathly ill. My grandmother makes this weird concoction of like lemon and honey and all kinds of other stuff. And I just go to sleep. I was just knocked out. And my brother is sitting there, and he's sleeping in bed with me. And I guess it was towards midnight. He reaches over to, you know, to look at me, because on the church, the bell started ringing at 12 at midnight. And when it started ringing, my brother looks up, and he sees an image of like, but it looks just like him, but it's like in his white gown, and it has a red jewel on its forehead, and it has its hands inside me, and it's like saying some incantations. And so my brother's getting freaked out by it, because, you know, he doesn't know what to say. You know, he's only like 2 years older than me, so he's like 9, trying to process this as a 9-year-old. He's getting really freaked out by it. So he went to go touch me. He said I was ice cold. And then all of a sudden the thing looked up at him and saw him, and its eyes rolled back. It was nothing but like white eyes. And my brother just like, he wanted to scream. The thing just made a shrieking noise at him. My brother was scared, pulled me to him, and like held her, you know, went underneath the blankets. And then that was it. The next morning I wake up, I'm like, just everything's fine. I'm bouncing up and down. I'm running around playing outside. My brother's freaked out because he's like, you were dead. Like, you were ice cold. Like, you don't even know what happened last night. You don't even know like, you have no idea. My brother just is completely freaked out by it. And you know, he wants to tell that story. And my grandmother, you know, she believed him. She was like, there's something about him because I was born, you know, veil over my face. So, you know, that's a whole nother topic too. So anyway, it's amazing when you start saying, you know, when you start, you know, talking about astral projection, my brother has been able to see himself a lot of times in areas, and he's there, but he's not there. Like, you know, I'm not gonna say it's weird, but it's a sensation that I felt a few times, you know, where you think that you're there and you were there. Like you almost, you feel like you're actually there physically. You know, I've left quite a few times, you know, I've told you these stories about it, but now instead of me talking about it, I'm gonna talk about it from Melinda. So pass it over to you.
Well, since we're kind of talking about being, you know, as being children, I can recall just always thinking to myself, because I really didn't grow up going to church. I tried a couple different places. My mom would let me go with friends, and I always just kind of felt like I really didn't fit in. But anyways, I always just felt like, what am I doing here? You know, like, what is my purpose? You know, just even as a small child, just sitting quietly and just looking around me, thinking, you know, who am I? You know, just why this body? Why these demographics? You know, why our parents that we choose? And so as I, you know, as an adult now, I'm starting to learn that our spirits come into the world. We choose our parents, and we choose our bodies and where we want to live to experience whatever we're to experience or learn through that journey in this lifetime. And I'm starting to kind of understand that sometimes we feel like we're not doing what is in alignment of what we're supposed to be doing while we're here. Could even look like anxiety, or just something doesn't feel right. I mean, it could even be a spiritual practice, as far as, you know, I've gone into churches and just trying to find a church family to be a part of. And after a couple times of going, something would just come up where it just didn't resonate with me, you know, as far as speaking of things that they didn't believe in. Loving others and treating others the way I want to be treated. And, you know, sometimes we hear, I think, with religion or spirituality, it's in order to be a part of this group, you have to believe in this or that or the other thing. And really, I just think it's all the same. We're just all supposed to love each other and care for each other the way we want to be treated.
Right. And, you know, and so to add to that, you know, the whole purpose of, you know, reason why we have this ministry, Change Begins With Me, is the foundation of, you know, these webisodes, this Love Begins With Me, is to really talk about, you know, gospel and have fellowship between each other. The key that it is, it's not about church. You know, church is not about your faith. Religion is not about your faith. It is not even about your belief. You know, none of those are about what you really are. The one thing that we hold in common, and this is the reason why the creed and the code of, you know, the United States of America was to talk about being one nation under God, and God being the center focus, God being the creator. You may call God, you know, dad, mom, brother, sister, uncle, you know, many different names, Allah, you know, whatever universe. You may, yeah, universe, you know, you may call it future, you know, Adam, you know, for that matter. You know, yeah. You may have a term for God, but you know that it is above the flesh here. And so because you have that, then universally we're one and the same. And so, you know, I've talked about this before in you know, in previous episodes where I talked about the spirit of me and you are actually the same. You know, they're actually the same thing, because we all have the spirit of me that's inside. We all can understand what me is. We all understand what you is just a reflection on the outside. That's what we all are. So, you know, that's good to have. But what I'm looking at today is really from a supernatural. We have, you know, psychic abilities where we have the ability to almost like when you get your wisdom teeth pulled out, right? Yeah. And when you get your wisdom teeth pulled out, you can tell when the barometric pressure changes, and you know when it's going, you know, it's going to snow or it's going to rain. Almost like the animals now, they have a sixth sense. Like, I got to go to hibernate. So, you know, you go back to that primal instinct that we have where we know, okay, something doesn't feel right. I'm walking down the street and I get this spidey sense tingling and it says, no, don't go down that way. And you turn and you avoid getting in trouble. You have a dream, and next thing you know, you wake up and almost feel as if you're in a deja vu sense because it's happened before. You know, that sort of mentality that we all have, and we all have those gifts, but sometimes we're just too afraid to talk about it. You know, that's where, you know, I really want to start. Just let's hammer into that, because I think a lot of us have, you know, we want to be able to talk about that. It was sort of like talking about the scary jokes when we were kids about, ooh, don't go to, you know, room 13 and floor 13, where we were spooking each other out. But the reality is, as we have creativity, as mankind has creativity, the creativity has blossomed into technology, into the betterment of our humanity, and even to the extent of hurting our humanity, because you have to have a duality. You have to have good and bad with both. You can't just say we're going to have all great without having bad. If you say we have complete balance, everything's centered in the middle, then that's great. We'd love to have that, but it doesn't work that way. You know, nothing's flatline. Everything's a pyramid. So you have to have something where we have another state of consciousness that sits outside of this flesh, that sits outside of this me and these eyes, that we relate to, that we come from, that we were created from, and that we go back to. And at some point, we are still one and the same with it. You know, the words, like, for instance, here's the verse of the day. And I want you to take this in the heart, because you understand these words are not mine. These words are from the past, but we are the future. So it's a message to us today in the future. It's amazing that if you think about that, these words are somebody else's, written for us here in the present, but it was the future for them, for us to hear it, right? For it to resonate with us, and for us to all identify with each one, you know, each and every one of these words. It's 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 16. Yet if any man suffer as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God on this behalf. So, you know, that means a lot. It's like, don't be ashamed of being who you say you are every moment of every day. Don't be one of those people. This is the reason why children have a hard time today, because the reflection that they get is, if you go into church only on Sunday and you pay a little bit of money to when you're there, all of a sudden that lets go of everything, and it's now do as I say, not as I do type of thing. And they see your actions, and they're nurtured into these walls of shame that we talked about, you know, even with Rachel. But what does that do to them spiritually? You know, we talked about this. Like, for instance, you were talking about Mindy astral projecting, and her brother basically denying it, because the fear that he had of being ashamed that, oh yeah, I saw my sister doing that, so I don't, you know, if I say that, they're going to think I'm crazy. And so instead, he belittles her, puts the shame walls into her, and then she starts shaming, and she's like, I don't want to do it again. Like, I don't want to share my gift. And she starts shutting it off, you know. And how many of us have shut off our gifts?
Yeah.
We're taught that. We're taught to. Everyone is taught to, just about. It's just like a natural, even like an imaginary friend, you know. Are they imaginary, or is a little kid talking to somebody, another spirit? You know, it's like they don't exist. You're taught that doesn't exist, that doesn't exist.
Yeah, I tell you, babies, I mean, if you think about the miracle of life itself, we were all a sperm that was like 1 in a million, whatever comes out, right? Whatever that factor is. 1 in a million that, depending on how your father was, you know, you were one in there was a possibility you would never, ever, 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 never, ever. You have better chances of winning the lottery, you know, like a billion times over than actually being born, you know, mathematically speaking. And all the days and all the times that guys actually continue to produce sperm. And then you have women with eggs and only a certain number of eggs. And only one sperm will genetically know exactly what to do with that one egg when it knows who and what it needs to go and be with to make you today, the fleshy person. Okay? It's an amazing thing when you start thinking about it. That's creation. Those two things came together, and somehow or another, you started mutating and evolving into being Melinda, as we see today. You taught yourself how to get up on your own 2 feet and walk. No one taught you how to do that. You didn't understand what the heck, hey, get up and walk meant. You had no concept of even what right and left was. And most of the time, you don't. You shouldn't know. Because right and left should be whatever you thought it was when you come out, because children naturally have their own language. They look and smile at each other like, hey, we made it. We all cracked the code together. Like, they're the happiest can be. You put the kids together, man, they make you so happy. Like, just a bundle of joy. They're almost like seeing tiny little, you know, I always joke around my mom and call her vertically challenged. I said, Mom, if you were like 2 inches shorter, you would get disability because you would be considered a dwarf. You know, and I'm like, I don't care what anybody says. They're the most magical people in the world. They make me smile. Brad Johnson is one of my favorite comedians, but dude, he cracks me up all the time. Not because he's because he's considered a dwarf, but because he doesn't allow you to shame him. You know, and I think that's important, is that we can't allow ourselves to feel shameful for who we are, for disabilities that people, you know, to say it's a disability, I said, no, it's not. It's a character trait. It helps make me be me. It separates the version of you that you guys get to see, you know, with your eyes. This is for you to see. Your version of me, that's what it's made for. My version of me is made to see all your beautiful faces. And it's awesome because we don't have to look the same. I get to appreciate the fact that God was awesome enough inside here to say, let me see all these beautiful faces. You know, I mean, so be happy that you have the gift of sight. If you didn't have the gift of sight and all you could do is hear, could you be racist? I'm just, you know, I mean, it's a funny thing because, you know, Dave Chappelle actually had a episode about that. It was called the white black supremacist, and it was so hilarious. But it's true. If you're blind, does it even exist? No, it doesn't. So, you know, that's why I tell people, be blind to even things such as racism, things that don't exist. Feel those energies and the vibrations between people. And if you start getting into this energy work, you start understanding the vibrations you have between people, it'll pull you into the right directions. It'll propel you away from places. You know, I can't wait to, like, you know, share a lot of my experiences through my walk across America, because I had, you know, so many different vibrations, from just coming along people to knowing who people are to even, you know, Mindy and I, you know, connecting even now. Was, you know, it was magical because every day was just like, it was a blessing. I got to know more and more and more of who I am and what I'm made of and where I'm going to, you know, by choice. That I literally know by choice where I'm going to go to, you know, and it's awesome. And some people say, well, how do you know? And I say, how do you not know? You know, that'd be a great question. Is you're going to ask somebody a question, you have doubt. Well, if you have doubt, I always say, if you have doubt, you need to rule it out. So if you have doubt one way, but then you have doubt the other way, then how can you say it's not? You have to give some sort of proof. But if somebody still gives you proof, but you don't believe it yourself, well, then it doesn't matter, right? It won't matter to you. So, enjoy your journey that you have. Find your spirituality, and now find your purpose. Because like you were saying, Melinda, you found your purpose. Well, that's the cool thing about it, is when you actually start finding your purpose, when you find out what energy you actually have, and be proud of it, because it's an amazing, amazing gift. Everyone has it. And it's amazing when you have your awakening, when you finally have your awakening.
That's one thing I wanted to ask Melinda, is when you started to go into your schooling that you're finishing up now, what propelled you into that mostly? I mean, you said when you were younger there were things that weren't clicking and weren't feeling right, but was there any particular event or anything that took place that just led you to say, here, I'm going to go for this and start down the path that you're in now?
Well, as far as deciding to go to school, I was a medical assistant for about 6 years full time, and then I went part-time after I had my children, and then eventually I stopped working there so I could stay home with them. And then I actually went back in 2016, and it just still didn't work out with the child care, and I just felt like I needed to be home with my children. But that was what I need to do now, and I needed to do then. I need to be with my children during the day, but I just felt like I wanted to do something to help others heal, including myself. Like, when I went into it, I was going into it because I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's and an underactive thyroid in 2014 after I had my second daughter. I had her in December, and I was diagnosed with that in that following fall. And I didn't even know anything was wrong. I just went to the doctors for a routine physical. Sorry, lost you there. And they called me, and they scared me half to death, telling me that I was diagnosed with this, and I needed to come to the doctors right away. And I just remember being in tears because I didn't understand. And I didn't feel sick. I mean, I was tired. I had a baby that I was breastfeeding, and I had an older child as well that was 3 years older, so I had 2 children at the time. So when I went to the doctors and asked, why so many people are being diagnosed with the autoimmune disorders and why this happened to me, it was just kind of like, it just does. And that's the answer I got. And I just kind of, just went on to ask more questions. Am I going to have to take medication the rest of my life? And I was told that, yeah, I would have to take medication the rest of my life. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to have to get a prescription every month and pay for this prescription, and there's nothing I can do about it, and this just happens. And that just didn't make sense to me. Medication, but I still felt that there was something that I needed to figure out for myself. And it's funny because we were talking about projecting. So last March, when I decided I'm going to be a holistic health coach, I wanted to do that to help others in this journey of me trying to find answers. And before I signed up with IIN, I was listening to different series, like YouTube series, different webinars on underactive thyroid disease and Hashimoto's, all that good stuff. And I just think it kind of got me to that point where I wanted to take classes to help others, become a health coach. So it's funny because this whole entire year, I've learned so many things, and I've really healed myself in the process. And I'm still on the road of recovering. I'm kind of a bad patient, so I don't go to the doctors when I'm supposed to. I just decided to stop taking my medication back in August. It didn't take a year, it didn't take a day to get that diagnosis, to, you know, develop Hashimoto's or underactive thyroid. So I feel it's going to take a while by eating nutrition food.
So Melinda, tell me a little bit more, because I think you were talking about your spiritual awakening. So I'm assuming that after you started moving away from, you know, a lot of the, you know, the pharmaceutical side and going to more of the holistic, you know, natural, you know, herbs practice side, that it started actually opening up some different vibrations and giving you, you know, other abilities here that I definitely want you to be able to share with us. So mind talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, it's funny. I mean, there's all these different things that kind of took place that got me to this point. So I went to a workshop about transcendental meditation a few months before I signed on with holistic health coaching. So I learned how to do the transcendental meditation. I think I'm saying that right. So I just learned how to meditate, basically. So I started practicing that. And then I started my coaching classes. And then I started going to moon circles with Rachel Grandin, and met her there and many other people in this community. That it was just a really good was going on with me, what has always gone on with, as far as, I guess you want to say, like for me, I've been told they're called shadow people. Other people see changes of color around others, or just really, I see a lot of different colors, and just it was a good place to be able to start talking about it and opening myself up and getting the support that I needed to continue being in alignment with what I thought my purpose was, and then talked about my whole entire life. So as far as this past year, you know, just by healing myself, continuing the meditation, just surrounding myself with others that are on the same journey, and just, you know, in a different way, and just talking about numbers, seeing, you know, the ones, the twos, the threes, fours, and fives. Those are the five I see a lot. And again, the colors and just synchronicities. Just maybe just going to the store and something pops in my head, and I'm, you know, right before Christmas, I was looking for ice packs to put with these little gift baskets that I was making for my family, because I was going to do like a cheese, wine and cheese kind of basket. And I was looking for ice packs, and it just kind of like popped in my mind, the little cubes that we used to have when we were kids. I don't know if you guys remember them. They look like you could freeze them and you could put them in your drink, and they look like little fruit. They were just really different, and I have not seen them in years. And that thought came across my mind, and I kind of laughed about it. And I was like, there's no way they would be in here. And I walked. Something just told me to walk over to this one corner, and I went around the corner, and they're right there. These you know, little ice cubes that aren't usually even around in the dead of winter, because they're more of like a summer thing. And like I said, I haven't seen them in years. And I was just like, wow, you know, I don't really feel like that was me. I feel like that was spirit or energy kind of just bringing that to me, because it just came out of nowhere. And I thought that was pretty cool. And stuff like that happens to me all the time. And some would say, you know, I don't know how they say it. You know, they just don't believe it in the way I do. and how others do, I guess. And again, kind of putting doubt, but I just, I don't believe that anymore. I trust my gut, and the messages I'm getting through the process, and just, asking the universe to receive and guide me every day is enough for me. Yeah. I could give a lot of examples. I don't know. You really want me to go into it, because I could ramble on and on.
Absolutely. Like, so for instance, I remember where I had almost like a reawakening. So I'll back up. So I'll talk about, one of the things that became significant in my birth, and then it's kind of led me to have just certain gifts that are, it's hard to explain to certain people. And, so I go a little bit with everyone, and I talk a little bit with everyone to just to gauge where they're at on certain stuff. I don't like to, ruffle people's feathers or anything of that nature. So when I was born, I have two older brothers. My oldest brother is actually considered to be my half brother. We have different mothers, but my mom has, she's basically an heir to the Korean, basically to Korea. Everybody asks, is it North Korean, South Korean? It didn't matter. They split. It was almost like having North America and South United States, when we had the Civil War. It was just a civil war. One day they want to unite, but my family was a consort family to the Yi family, which was the main family. So we have a lot of queens and princes and dukes and stuff like that. So my family. So where this leads to is we have 3 silver bowls that are given to my mother to give to her 3 sons. And my mom was hoping that I would be her last son. And so in the Korean, and for Koreans, they don't have a religion. It's a Korean church, which is an interpretation of what Jesus brought to them. Jesus came to the 7 churches of Asia, which was part of the Mongolian Empire and things of that nature. So they're very, very spiritual in their belief systems. And so my mother was praying to God and said that she wanted me to be her last son. And so God basically gave her a message and said that, pick the last boy's name inside the baby book of that year. And so it was August 2nd, 1974. She picks the first name Zakomo, which means thank you in Malawi. She has no idea what it means. My mom barely speaks any English. She just, just came here. She wasn't even a citizen yet. And then for my middle name, she was told to take the middle name, or take the name of somebody who's very kind to her during the time of my birth. So she picked this guy's name. He was a nurse, her nurse, and his name was Sen, S-E-A-N. But he says, but they call him Sean. So he's like, okay, well, it's Gaelic version of like Scene, like Jean, Scene is what it should be, but it's been changed. They call it Sean, so whatever. But that actually is the Gaelic name for God. So my name actually is Thank You, God. My mom has no idea what it is. And then eventually, 4 years later, she has my sister who was born. So but during the time when I was born what they call a full veil over your face. And over that full veil, I came out with my eyes open. I was known as the Aquaman kid. So my eyes were wide open, born, coming out and looking around, still breathing in the amniotic fluid and breathing through the umbilical cord of my mom and looking around. They just thought it was amazing. This little boy's like looking around and everybody not stressed out. And so that was me. Fast forwarding, I saw myself being born into this world is kind of the way they see it from a spiritual side. But when I was 13 in 1989, so it was just last year, I had my dog pass away. His name was Mad Dog. And he was around me, kind of babysitting me since I was a little kid. And he used to always pick on me all the time. boxer, used to run around the neighborhoods, and like he would wait on the corners, and like I chase after him, and I'm just a little boy, 5 years old, running around asking people have they seen my dog, and then they would say, yeah, they've seen him. My dog's right around the corner, and I would just run all through the neighborhoods. But this dog eventually was dying, and I had a dream at night, and you know, I thought something was wrong with him. That, you know, before I went to bed, I said something's wrong. He's gonna die. And I tried to tell my dad. My dad forced me to go to bed, and so I go into, you know, I go to bed. I have a dream that we're at an amusement park, and a big like Universal Studio type of set falls down. Crane pulls it down on top of my sister. It's dragging my sister underneath of this movie set, and I'm running after the movie set, and I'm, you know, screaming to try to tell the guy stop. With my father, we run, we pick it up, we lift it up. I pull my sister out. I'm rocking her in my arms. She's really bloody, and I'm saying, no, please, you know, God, don't take my sister. And then I sit up in my bed. I said, it's not my sister. It's my dog, Mad Dog. I run downstairs. He's underneath the pool table. I pull him out. He's still a little warm, but you can tell he's not breathing. So I breathe into his nose one hard time, and I push on his chest, and his eyes pop open, and I see his little, like his eyes were kind of gone, but then they open back up. His pupils open back up. And I look at him, and I know that he's really sad. Like he really wanted to go. He was waiting to go. You know, my dad sucks. My dad really wasn't that kind to him, and you know, he's just done. He just really wanted to go, and so I told him, I said, I know you're hurting, and I know you're waiting to leave. I said, it's okay. You can go, little buddy. You know, I thank you for everything. And I watched him as his eyes dilated and left this world. But the thing that I have is I will always have dreams that are sort of like premonitions. If I dreamt about something, death or something of that nature, normally I'm able to figure out who and what it means, or if I have, you know, I'll get premonitions about things. And generally, if they're about death, I have some relevance to who it may be. I've had it with like my godmother, you know, my dad's godmother, you know, that very day, and it was trippy. My mom was, you know, there, and she witnessed that too. And so, you know, I have a lot of those types of accounts. And then just the walk across America was the same thing. So a lot of stuff will be written in my book, but this is not about me right now. You know, I just want to tell you that, you know, those types of stories, if you have them, you know, I want people to be able to share them, because you start finding the more and more you start going into those abilities, you start, you know, instead of running away from them, you run to them, and you start grabbing onto them, not feeling scared and afraid, because, you know, I don't want to miss out on this. I want to still have time at the end. I have a friend that I met along the way. His grandparents had passed away, and family's really sad, you know, mourning right now over it. So I want to definitely, you know, say a prayer for them at the end, for my buddy out there. So anyway, I'll let you guys, especially you, Melinda, we definitely want to hear about, you know, your stories and some of your gifts that you have there, and you know, learn more about you. So I know you were talking about how you were seeing the numbers, and you start feeling a lot more, you know, you're feeling a lot more like different energy, and seeing stuff and seeing prophecies and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So as far as just recently with the meditating, you know, just getting more into the meditation mood, I've noticed that I am seeing a lot more numbers, and when I'm meditating, floating, which I've never felt that before, which I think is pretty cool, because I'm in just like such a nice relaxed state. And just recently, the last couple months, I've been having dreams of people or seeing people. And I know that when we had first talked, I said, I've seen you two before, and I thought it was crazy because I was having dreams of, I remember Mindy, but if I knew, like, the night before I had talked to Yuji, I was, like, seeing a man that looked like you, and as we were talking, I realized that that's who it was. Sometimes it's not very clear, but there's certain features that are definitely just things like that and that just started happening more recent. Before it would be more like symbols and just knowing something was going to happen. I mean, I know I was telling you both the story of when I was in high school and I was taking a trip to visit my dad in Kentucky, and I just felt like something was going to happen, and it wasn't, so I just prayed before we went, just is there any information you can give me before, asking the universe, God, before this trip I was taking to drive to Kentucky, and the only symbol that really came through was this picture of a skull. And I remember being extremely afraid, like, no, I'm not seeing a skull, because at the time I was thinking like somebody was going to die on this trip. There's going to be an accident or something. And so I just started praying that it was going to be a good trip, everybody was going to be fine, that I was going to arrive there safely, and just put just good affirmations out there and ask my angels to be with me during that trip. And so I got out there and everything was fine. However, when I was there, I had a boyfriend with me who decided to ride my father's four-wheeler. And I grew up on four-wheelers, and for some reason I just did not want to go on that ride with him. It just didn't feel right. And I was inside the house, and my stepmom had came in and was like, I just told her I didn't feel right, like something didn't feel right. And then a few minutes later, a neighbor came and said that there had been an accident, and he had wrecked the four-wheeler and had like a huge gash, along the backside of his head. So at the time, I didn't put two and two together. It was just a really scary incident that happened, and I just wanted to get through it. And he had to go to the hospital, and he, recovered from that. But it was just recently that I realized that I was having, I remembered that I received about this skull, that symbol that I got, and how he had hit his skull during that accident. And I believe that, my angels or the universe, God, was just trying to say that there was going to be a skull involved, and however that looked. I don't know. I'm still trying to learn how to put things together.
All right. So, one of the things that I end up looking at, especially in like instances where you're seeing those symbols, is and Mindy and I were talking about this the other day, is what I've learned how to do is in my dreams, what I start paying attention to more is looking for time references, numbers.
Time?
Yeah, look for numbers, street signs, anything that can give you any reference to, because it's so easy to like look at your dream, okay? But you have deja vu moments and people are like, I feel like this is deja vu. And I'm like, you will know if it really truly was, if you actually, in your dreams at any point in time, look, like purposely know to yourself, you're in your dream, consciously look for signs to start paying attention to, numbers, because that pattern format will naturally be something that helps you register like a picture, like a picture or something like that. If you pick up on it, you pick up on numbers, a color, and some sort of feature. If you do that, you will help get like more photographic memory on a lot of different stuff. So now you'll come up and say, I saw that, and now I know where that relates to. I can see exactly where it is. So like for instance, you were talking about like your boyfriend at the time. If you knew the date or the time in which it happened, you may see like numbers, like successions of sixes. The successions of 6s means, to me, even if it's 9s or 6s, what I've found is you have a choice of doing something that may be risky. That's all it means. You have a choice of a risky lesson that may end up happening. But somewhere along the line, you're taking a risk. And you know, and you may potentially hurt yourself. That's all it means to me. But then if I see successions of 1s, I know that I have a good choice, but both of them are going to be there. You just got to look. But if you look at the after effect, you know, you say, oh my gosh, it's a mistake. You'll go look at what was the last defining like number that was there that kind of like changed that vibration to be a negative action to you, but a positive lesson nonetheless, you know, and then you start learning your lesson from it. You know, like I've been married twice, you know, I know what that's like. They're not mistakes, they're lessons because I know what I did wrong is what I have to say. It has nothing to do with that other person. I can't control them. So it's about, you know, this person here. Anyway, Mindy?
I've been enjoying your all's conversation and jumping in every now and then. I've enjoyed especially hearing what Melinda has to say and all her revelations and things that she's learning about herself, because we all have those things in us, and it's just a matter of listening, feeling, and acknowledging, and then using that information in whatever way we can to help ourselves, because that's what it's there for.
Yeah. As I'm telling you, so many children have invisible friends, and people think they're weird for doing it, but they still see angels.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, they spoke a language, and then they lost their native tongue because they had to learn whatever man language was being forced upon them to communicate, to not poop on yourself. You know, I mean, that's literally because you already learned how to poop. I mean, you know how to poop, but you just had to learn the laws of where to poop and where being appropriate. I mean, that's pretty much how, you know, what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I mean, I definitely don't want to take up any more time. You know, I'm trying to keep this at an hour. We're reaching that point in time. I definitely want to say a prayer. You know, hopefully have Melinda, and maybe we'll have, you know, more panelists on at another time to really jump into this. And, you know, this week is going to be about supernatural. You know, it's about the supernatural. So about having premonitions. You know, I'll probably talk a little bit more about some revelations that, you know, will be inside the book, you know, regarding my walk, because I met so many great people along the way that I met that even had premonitions that knew I was coming and said it. I knew you were coming. We knew you were coming. You know, I mean, a group of people, some Native American tribes, which was amazing. You know, to know that and to be directed to everyone along the pathway, you know, right time at the right place every single time. And it's amazing when you start finding the right vibration and how to follow it, that each and every moment of your day can be selected to be the most awesome experience just living in that moment. So, you know, and you can, and everyone can do it. All right. All right, so
just one thing for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, I'm just grateful that I'm going through this because of also having children. You know, it's not something that I necessarily would have been able to talk to with my parents. Maybe not even now, but you know, with my children being younger, I know that they're seeing things, and when they express that, I just explain to them to pray to their angels, and if they feel scared, just to ask for their angels to come in and protect them and love them. And that's just, you know, I was told this year that there are rules, and I didn't realize there are rules, that you could just pray, and if you felt uncomfortable, then that energy that made you feel uncomfortable would leave. If you ask for protection and, you know, your guide angels and
Well, this is going to go back. Melinda. This is going to go back to in the very beginning of the United States of America, before it was the United States of America. You had women that would pray in the open, and they would say you were doing witchcraft, and they would take women and they would burn them at the stake because you were practicing religion, faith to God. And they were like, no, you're going to do it this way and this way only. So you have these factions. But see, remember, today's verse is 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 16. It says, yet if any man suffer as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God on this behalf, which means be happy with who you are. I said it once, and I'll say it again, and again. Jesus already died on the cross, so please, everyone, get off the cross. You know what? You have the ability now to say a prayer and be thankful in every minute and every moment. And and the way I look at it is, I don't just believe, but I know of God. I know where God exists, and I know where I'm going. And that's all I feel comfortable with. And it's not to be, to have an ego or posture up on anyone else. I hope everyone else finds that too. And they find that their spiritual guide to get there. And I believe if we all share, it's not to tell anybody they're wrong. It's to tell everybody, find your purpose. If you can find your purpose, then you'll find your amazing gift, and what you have to share. And that purpose is what God gave you. So I tell that, if you put God first, everything else just falls into place. Literally everything else will fall into place for you. So if you guys don't mind, quick bow your head in a prayer for Don McGuire. Dear Father, this prayer is for the McGuire family, as their grandfather and grandmother have passed away and is being offered up into your heavenly gates. May they know their purpose and know their right to what was right here on earth. May they have learned all their lessons. May they continue to shine with their heavenly light down onto their family to let them know that they're okay, and that the purpose of your life is to know why to be in heaven, and not why to live here on earth, but know why that you need to be in heaven. And may you continue to follow that light and all that is guided. And may all their family feel the power and love that you shed from above. And in your name we pray. Amen. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Melinda, for joining us. And we look forward to another episode another time. So thank you and peace out. We'll see you guys later.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.